Last week in Michigan politics, after devastating storms and tornadoes ripped through parts of the state late last week, its governor issuing an emergency declaration. But what exactly does it do? We explain. Plus, Michigan front and center on the national stage, it seems, after what the governor's office says was a meeting this week with the president. What we're told was discussed and agreed to. And a local official going above and beyond to give some people their American dream to have and to hold. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. We begin with the war with Iran and their attacks on oil ships in the region. The situation has caused oil prices to surge and Iranian leadership to vow revenge following the actions by the Trump administration. In Grand Rapids, the war in Iran was among the topics discussed as leaders gathered for the annual Automotive Suppliers Conference at Grand Valley State University. As 13 on Your Side's Peter Elliott tells us, while business leaders are keeping an eye on the Middle East, their focus remains on tariffs and inflation.
It has been a volatile last few years for the auto supplies industry, dealing with inflation, tariffs, and the looming specter of Chinese-made electric vehicles. That uncertainty is only growing as war with Iran has broken out. The question is how that will be felt here in West Michigan.
It's changing on a dime.
Too fast for Mike Wall to even keep up.
We update our forecast monthly. Our February forecast feels like an eternity ago.
The executive director of automotive analysis for S&P Global didn't predict a war with Iran, which is already impacting what you pay at the pump.
That's where we start talking about elevated oil prices, higher gas prices, starting to change.
But how will the auto industry as a whole be affected?
We're not, at least at this point in time, expecting as much of an impact.
Local companies aren't worried just yet either.
Right now, it's too soon for me to say that that's going to impact our business in some way outside of the team talking about the gas prices.
Ryan Lillibridge is the vice president of mission design and automation in Holland, which creates equipment for automotive manufacturers. He has more pressing concerns.
Companies reshoring and trying to understand how to manage tariffs.
Other attendees at Thursday's Automotive Supplier Symposium at GVSU agreeing.
I think we have a clear number one.
Because we're not through it yet, and there isn't really full certainty yet. We won't have that until hopefully later this year.
Another hot topic, electric vehicles from China.
It's really impressive. It's a very nice vehicle out front.
Wall says it's not a matter of if, but when those vehicles will penetrate the U.S. market, despite a 100% tariff on imports.
We haven't seen electric vehicles take off, and those suppliers are having to absorb and digest all that capital that was spent for electric vehicles that just simply aren't hitting.
In September, the federal tax credit for EVs expired. U.S. automakers have since de-emphasized their production.
We are having to dodge a lot of punches right now that are being thrown at us, and it's sort of the nature of the industry.
Reporting in Grand Rapids, I'm Peter Elliott, 13 on Your Side.
And now to a major disruption for a West Michigan-based company. The medical equipment company Stryker, headquartered in Portage, experiencing a cyber attack. The Wall Street Journal reports that the attack was carried out by Iranian-linked hackers. 13 on Your Side spoke with an employee about the experience. That employee is one of the more than 56,000 employees who were unable to work amid this crippling attack. Stryker says it serves more than 150 million patients around the world with its medical equipment. The company's operations had been disrupted by pro-Iranian hackers on Wednesday, according to that reporting from the Wall Street Journal. We spoke with one employee on the condition of anonymity who says they were told not to log into any company-issued devices. That morning, the employee had trouble signing on to a work computer and initially thought it could be due to a software update or even the storms the night prior, before soon realizing that may not be the case.
Was able to get my phone back up and running and called my boss just to let him know what was going on, and my computer wasn't working, so I might be offline a bit today, but that's what he told me about the hack, and kind of everybody's in the same boat.
In a statement, the company said that Stryker was, quote, experiencing a global network disruption to our Microsoft environment as a result of a cyber attack. We have no indication of ransomware or malware and believe the incident is contained. Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office says she met with President Donald Trump and his team Tuesday to discuss a range of local issues. One of those topics, a major water project meant to protect the state's fishing economy. The Brandon Road Interbasin project is centered around a lock and dam near Joliet, Illinois, and is meant to keep invasive carp from moving into the Great Lakes. The project had been in the spotlight recently after Senate Democrats from Michigan and Illinois alleged in January that the project had been paused. A spokesperson for Whitmer saying this week, quote, the governor also reiterated Michigan's commitment to the Brandon Road project to prevent invasive carp from entering the Great Lakes and damaging the region's economy. We need funding released so the Army Corps can begin construction as soon as possible. In a post to Truth Social this week, the president didn't mention a meeting, but said he was working with the governor on the issue of the carp. Invasive carp wasn't the only topic of discussion in what we're told was that meeting. We're also told it included a number of top issues the state has been working to address with the federal government, from key economic projects to what appeared to be a big potential shift on relief aid.
Tonight, news on what key Michigan issues Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office says she covered in a meeting with President Donald Trump this week.
What's been going on behind the scenes on a number of these issues has been a very unified team effort.
The governor's office telling 13 on Your Side the Tuesday meeting included things like the Brandon Road Interbasin project, meant to stop invasive carp from entering the Great Lakes, a concern in Michigan for years.
If invasive Asian carp get into the Great Lakes, they pose a significant threat to the environment and economy of the region. So they will outcompete other fish, which means they put at risk our $7 billion fishing economy.
We're told the conversation also included Selfridge Air National Guard Base in Macomb County, set to house a new fighter mission. It comes just as the state's House Speaker has pushed for $152 million in runway funding to the base, and fast.
In order to get this done and not put the Selfridge mission in jeopardy, we've got to do it by the end of spring break.
A spokesperson saying Whitmer also gave an update following last week's devastating tornadoes in southwest Michigan that killed 4 people, and asked for an update on the state's appeal for FEMA funding in the wake of last year's ice storms in its northern region.
There are crews out like crazy. They are taking down the poles that are leaning and cracked and fallen, and they're putting up new ones. They're basically what it seems like is like rebuilding our whole infrastructure.
FEMA had previously denied the state's appeal for additional ice storm aid, but in what appeared to be a shift for the federal government, Whitmer's spokesperson saying, quote, the president agreed to deliver additional federal funding to help Michiganders with the cost of recovery efforts, and the governor is thankful for this extra assistance.
We did reach out this week to FEMA to confirm whether their agency will be supplying additional funding and how much, if so. We were told, quote, FEMA works closely with the White House and proudly executes the president's direction under the Stafford Act. Announcements will be made in coordination with the White House through official channels. You can find the governor's office's full statement at this story on our website, 13onyourside.com. Your voice, your vote, and the candidates who want to be Michigan's next governor continue to focus on West Michigan. Republican State Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt, running for governor, held a town hall this week at Kent County's GOP headquarters, focused on law enforcement and policy issues. Nesbitt was joined by several county sheriffs, among others. He said more support is needed for law enforcement. He also focused on high crime rates, police recruitment struggles, and cracking down on illegal immigration.
So as I look at what's needed here in Michigan to be able to take on, one is we need to have somebody that actually works with President Trump, works with ICE, ban sanctuary cities to make sure that local law enforcement works with state law enforcement, works with federal law enforcement.
Last week, independent gubernatorial candidate Mike Duggan and Democrat Jocelyn Benson also held campaign events in Grand Rapids. It's the end of the road, it seems, in a long legal battle involving those once alleged to have been fake Michigan electors in the 2020 election. Coming up, why the state attorney general now says she will not appeal a judge's decision to throw out the charges against them. The cases involving Michigan's once alleged fake electors is officially over. State Attorney General Dana Nessel announced this week her office will not appeal a judge's decision to dismiss charges against 15 people who had been accused. Nessel says the decision came down to a lack of resources and a low chance of success on appeal. In a detailed report released this week, Nessel says while she still believes the group broke the law by signing papers claiming Donald Trump won the state, the legal system simply wasn't built to move at the speed this case demanded. A Lansing judge previously threw out the charges, ruling there wasn't enough evidence to prove the defendants had criminal intent. Now some of those former defendants are reportedly planning on suing the Attorney General. That's according to the Detroit News. They report that former Michigan Republican Party co-chair Michon Maddock is among the defendants filing suit against Nessel. She told the Detroit News that Nessel's felony complaint against her was, quote, filed with malicious intent. Communities in southwest Michigan are still recovering from the deadly March 6 tornadoes that touched down in St. Joseph, Cass, Calhoun, and Branch counties, killing 4 people and injuring about 24 more. Officials spent much of the week surveying the damage. That includes Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer surveying the damage with the Michigan State Police. She has declared a state of emergency for 3 of those counties and is encouraging anyone impacted by these tornadoes to call 211 for resources.
Grateful for all the first responders, emergency staff, and public works crews for their swift actions to keep Michiganders safe. We are making all state resources available to local communities under the emergency declaration that I signed this morning. And we'll continue to work with local partners to keep Michigan safe. Michiganders are tough. We've faced national disasters like this before, and we will get through this together.
But what does a state of emergency allow the state to do? We have details on how it works.
After a number of devastating tornadoes struck southwest Michigan on Friday, the state's governor announcing action over the weekend.
We're making all state resources available to local communities under the emergency declaration that I signed this morning.
An emergency declaration for Branch, Cass, and St. Joseph counties. But what exactly does that mean? What does an emergency declaration allow the state to do for those impacted?
The governor can sort of coordinate and use any state resources of any type to assist in responding to the emergency.
The state's Emergency Management Act gives powers to the governor, including directing evacuations and seeking federal aid if necessary. Some powers as wide-ranging as commandeering private property and suspending regulatory statutes, orders, and rules.
The most common example is every county's got rules on the weight of trucks that can be on their roads during certain times of the year. And if disaster relief is needed, then you can suspend that rule so that trucks with a heavier heavier load on those trucks can then come into the county.
Once there's a state of emergency in place, once our state emergency operations center is activated, we can then begin to work at the state level to coordinate and facilitate any of those resource requests, then to get them locally to support that local response.
So how could those affected benefit and get resources? It depends on what happens at the local level first.
As local responders are dealing with emergencies, they may exhaust their resources. They may come across a need for resources that they don't have in their community.
That's when local officials would seek help from the state and their resources made available by the governor's declaration.
It's up through the emergency managers that these requests would be coming, and then going down to the community.
Josh Alburtus, 13 on your side.
Governor Whitmer declared March 15th through the 21st as Michigan Severe Weather Awareness Week. As part of the awareness effort, local emergency management agencies are invited to take part in a voluntary statewide tornado drill on March 18th. Local communities, businesses, organizations, families, and individuals are all encouraged to participate in the statewide tornado drill, but are not required to. During the drill, you may see or hear alerts on TV and radio stations, as well as outdoor sirens if your local emergency management agency is participating. At the state capitol, a group of lawmakers wants to make major changes to a state commission that has a lot of power over energy bills. It's the commission that essentially has the power to sign off on any increased rates for investor-owned utilities like electric and gas. The possible changes are what these lawmakers feel would make it more accountable to the public.
Please listen to the people of Michigan, not corporations.
It's the Michigan Public Service Commission that regulates the rates you may pay for utilities like gas and electricity. And that group has been the subject of a lot of controversy.
I ask you just to listen to us and to be our voice, because we don't have anybody else to be our voice.
Now, amidst concerns over things like data center power agreements and utility rates, some lawmakers under the Capitol Dome are eyeing changes.
My constituents, along with a lot of constituents around the state, are like, what can you guys do as a legislature?
Democratic State Representative Jimmy Wilson partnering with fellow Representative Reggie Miller to try and bring about change.
What we're trying to do here is make the MPSC, the Michigan Public Service Commission, into an elected body instead of an appointed body.
Currently, the commission is made up of 3 members appointed by the governor with the approval of the state Senate. The changes would expand the commission to 5 members and have them be elected. The proposals come as the commission lists over half a dozen open rate cases in which groups have looked to increase rates for things like electricity, natural gas, and steam service.
We want to kind of have better accountability to our Michigan Public Service Commission and where they can actually answer to the people and not just them answering to the governor.
When reached for comment on the legislation, an MPSC spokesperson sent 13 on Your Side a statement reading, quote, "The commission is focused on keeping up recent momentum on significant improvements in electric reliability and keeping customer costs in check and will decline further comment."
Parts of this push from lawmakers are done in a way that would need a much higher bar to take effect. Why that is, that's part of the story on our website, 13onyourside.com. A local county commission meeting was interrupted this week after a protest erupted inside the room. What protesters were advocating and what unfolded, that's next. Kent County Sheriff's deputies had to step in and clear the room during a Kent County Commission meeting Thursday morning. A small group of protesters stood up and started chanting during public comment while holding an anti-ICE sign. It appeared part of the ongoing effort by 2 groups to convince the county to adopt sanctuary policies for immigrants. 4 women were cited for disturbing the peace at a public meeting and then released. Grand Rapids honored the legacy of Cesar Chavez Thursday as the community gathered for the 2026 Social Justice March. The celebration was held on what would have been the labor icon's 99th birthday. Participants started the walk at the Hispanic Center of West Michigan. The march wrapped up with a gathering at Lee Street Christian Reformed Church, where students learned about why Cesar Chavez's story was important. Following heavy rainstorms in the Grand Rapids area earlier this week, the city's emergency management team were providing details in the aftermath. The team says a perfect storm of recent snowmelt, fallen leaves, and heavy hail clogged more than 8,000 catch basins, causing water to back up onto city streets. Officials have already confirmed at least 1 sinkhole caused by erosion, and they're warning drivers that the pavement beneath standing water might not be as stable as it looks.
Do not try to drive through roads that have standing water on them. We don't know how much water there is. We don't know if there is a possible erosion situation underneath that. So we just want people to be safe and avoid those areas as much as possible.
Officials were asking residents to help out by joining the Adopt a Train. 3, 2, 1. Officials were asking residents to help out by joining the Adopt a Drain program to keep catch basins clear of debris. If you have flooding on your private property and need assistance, you are encouraged to call 211 to connect with the United Way. In 2023, the Department of Justice began giving out grants to state and local police agencies to develop virtual reality-based training programs focused on de-escalation tactics and dealing with people struggling with their mental health. Michigan State Police was one of 8 departments to receive one of these grants. And they say it's the closest thing to putting officers in a real-world situation without actually being on the street. 13 on Your Side's Michael Martin was given the chance to try out one of these VR training programs.
And we bought 14 of these VR units, and they're strategically placed throughout the state.
This is what cutting-edge police training looks like in 2026.
They were designed by doctors at Michigan State Police to assist us with the mental health issues.
Virtual reality training scenarios.
Go ahead and pull those goggles down over your eyes.
Designed to look and feel as close as possible to the real thing.
Originally, back in 2023, about 1,700 people participated in the program.
Since then, Michigan State Police have run over 3,000 people through the virtual training at their Grand Rapids facility alone.
Dispatched to the convenience store. Clerk called, said there's a guy in the back and he's been breaking merchandise.
On Friday, I was given the chance to join that growing list.
Got a call, there's somebody in the back of this store. All right, buddy, taking a seat. Are you doing okay?
In this scenario, confronting a disoriented man in a crowded convenience store.
You're not giving me much to work with, buddy. Can we just talk a little bit?
No, I don't want to talk.
I am equipped with a mock taser and handgun.
Why don't you stay right there, sir? All right, sir. You got a base, sir. Can you put that down for me? Sir. All right. Dispatch, we need medical and backup.
Without much time to consider my options, I pull my taser.
You're equipped with the taser, but on the other hand, a taser doesn't always work. And if you're there alone, he gets past those probes and you're taking a piece of wood, potentially, to the head.
It's an unnerving experience, forced to make potentially life and death decisions in seconds.
In a situation when we go into a fight or flight response, what's happening physiologically with our body?
It was difficult to stay aware of my surroundings, developing almost tunnel vision on the subject in front of me.
Our body is dumping epinephrine, it's dumping adrenaline. And where's that adrenaline going? Everything and all the blood is going to our large organs. It wants to keep us alive. It's a survival mode. So we have less blood in our eyes, and we are just hyper-focused on what is the immediate threat.
Their hope to continue running more and more people, officers and civilians, through the scenarios to create a better understanding of what they face every day.
We want to keep people safe. That's our goal every day. And I think you realize quickly that de-escalation is a goal. It's not a verb. It's not something that's going to happen all the time. Things can turn to imminent danger in a hurry.
A local official is going the extra mile to make sure each couple's special day in her office is one to have and to hold. After the break, the latest profile from 13 on Your Side's We the People.
We the People is sponsored by North Point Bank.
Our country is turning 250 this year. 13 on Your Side is marking the milestone through our series, We the People. Every week, our Riley Mack will tell stories from around West Michigan, sharing experiences about our country. This week, she joins us with the story of a local county clerk who transformed her government office into something you'd never see coming.
If you've seen one government building, you've seen them all. Same lights, same sounds, same sights.
A lot of times you do see that. It's cold and distant.
But you haven't seen one.
I didn't want it to be a typical clerk's office.
Like this.
I've always been called extra. But I think it's just the fact that I want to give everybody the quality that they deserve.
Karen Bowie's county clerk office handles everything from the beginning of life.
We can access birth records.
To the end.
Death records. I'm responsible for election, concealed weapons permits for the entire county. We keep all of the oaths minutes for the county commissioner. Gosh, I do a little bit of everything.
So it's no surprise there's one more role for the clerk to have.
Part of your role as county clerk is weddings.
And to hold.
Yes. Yes.
But while most would stick to for better or for worse, Karen decided these couples deserve better. Much better.
When people come to the county building, they did not expect to see a chapel. I don't want it to be just a civil ceremony that they walk in, say a few words, and walk out. I wanted to be memorable. I asked our administrator, was there a room that I could use to do weddings? And he was like, well, okay, what are you going to do to the room? I said, I want to make it like a real chapel.
Karen got the room.
Okay, friends.
Now it seems all we need is a bride and a groom.
We are gathered here today to celebrate the joining of Matthew and Victoria.
She was working at this little store up in Whitehall that a lot of contractors stop into to eat lunch, and I seen her, and I had to go there to eat lunch for the next 20 days straight.
Did you know that he was interested in you?
Of course. Only a reflection of the love that brought them here.
The new Mr. and Mrs. Shepherd expected their courthouse wedding to be on par with its $25 price.
Kiss your beautiful bride.
Little did they know, Karen would make it priceless.
Congratulations.
Karen's been great. Ray of sunshine. It worked out. It worked out good. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with her.
After all these years, you'd think Karen would be used to it.
I know the officiant isn't supposed to cry, but...
You?
Yeah.
Would be wrong.
Just about every wedding I cry. I absolutely love it. I'm such a softie. I just love love.
Government buildings.
Sometimes it can be cold and distant.
Not the first place you'd associate with passion.
If I've done nothing else, hopefully I've changed that with this office.
But passion and Karen Bowie?
I don't know anything else but to serve.
Till death record. Do they part?
And we're looking for people willing to share their unique personal experiences as well. You can nominate yourself or someone else with a great American story. Go to 13onyourside.com/wethepeople or text America to the number on your screen, 616-559-1310. And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.